Thank you all. Thank you, Anania. It's a great privilege and pleasure to be here with you. Thank you all for making this possible. Thank you to the speakers and the organizers. The session has been structured around 5 phases. We will let every speaker introduce himself on the first phase, and then we have 3 teams. The first team being local and global. The second team is social and flexible. And the last team is nature and natural. And we'll have a short session on conclusions. My name is Alfonso. I work with the EGIS group. I'm the director of the Transitions and Financial Engineering division. And it's, again, a great privilege to be here. So I will now introduce the speakers. And we'll start with the first team, local and global. Nadine, you are with the first group, and can you tell us a little bit about your role in the company?
Yeah, sure. This is Nadine, Nadine Atta. I'm the senior director of the first group, in charge for the interior design departments. And mainly our job, or actually our role, is to be to design all the hotels as part of the interiors, and all the related elements also does need the designs all under us. So we are proudly saying that we have done all the TFG property in-house here locally. So that's briefly what we are doing. The talent we have within the team are all sourced locally, so we can say that we are a local interior firm.
And you're involved in a very significant project here in Dubai called Ciel. Could you tell us a little bit about the ambition of this project and how it will become a landmark in its own right in terms of a global and local?
Sure. The Ciel which is the tallest hotel in the world. I think so. Most of the audience is now very well known with that iconic hotel that's been introduced by the first group, which is going to be completed hopefully next year, end of the next year. The CL itself it's represented the global and the local at the same time. I would say proudly, this hotel has been designed 50% globally and the other 50% locally. When I said 50%, that means the architectural has been done by international firm, though the interior has 50%, which is representing 50% of design, has been done locally here within the TFG ID departments. And the CL in general definitely has a global product, but has a local talent. So we have, just as any other project, we have sourced a lot of product globally, and we have a lot of partners which is already attending here. Some of them, they have already attending there. So we have really goes all the way along to find the right product, whether it doesn't matter for us, to be honest with you, whether the product is going to has a local brand or has an international brand, as much as is giving the durability, as much as is giving the quality, as much as it shows the design as an element, and it shows the purpose of it. So we are not, to be honest, we are not have this mentality that we need to go global in order to find the quality. No, we are finding the right design, the right quality for the CL.
Yes, excellent. And my understanding is that you are in charge not only for the rooms, but also the common areas. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it's the whole interior design.
Yes. So the entire interiors that we are in charging for currently for the entire interiors for the CL, whether it's room or a guest room, whether it's a common area, whether it's an outlet, F&B outlet, or bars, and even we have enhanced over some of the element of the landscape. So because sometimes it's some feature you cannot separate it from the beauty of the interior. So you need also to put an hands on it and you put in some put some input to make it look connected with the rest of the area. We have proudly started design the standard, which is showing behind me, the standard, or they called it the club rooms. We are proudly said we have already done with this, and we are aiming to build all this room locally. Definitely, when I said locally, probably we are targeting the local market for the furniture, but we cannot specify whether we're gonna find the fabric as well locally. Definitely could be fabric somewhere from the globe, but definitely it's going to be all assembled or done here. We very much trust in the local market. We have very long, good relationship with.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Pleasure.
It's fantastic to hear about this. Stephen, yes, you're also an architect by training, and you focus in design and technical services of the very large organization. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role and that organization?
Yeah, sure. I'm fortunate enough to look after a great team in our technical services department, some fabulous designers and engineers, and our main job is to partner with our developers and create world-class hotels and resorts. So.
And with initiatives such as the Vision 2030 in Saudi Arabia and tourist development in the region more widely, do you see an increased demand for luxury hospitality?
Yeah, definitely. Well, we see an increase in demand across all segments, from our Holiday Inn brands in the mid-scale to premium Voco and lifestyle Indigo. But luxury specifically, it's always maintained a strong position in this region, but there's definitely been a growth, in the two specifically countries we're talking about here today. It's been fueled very much in part by Vision 2030, and then the large developments like Red Sea, like Diriyah Gate, has had a big impact on it. And I'd say that for us at ISG, it works quite well because we're also on a sort of a journey ourselves, even more enhancing our luxury and lifestyle brands. We now have 5 of them. With 6 Senses
in the region.
In the region, so globally, we've got 6 Senses and InterContinental are in the region, but we're actively looking to bring in Regent Vignette Collection, our collection brand in Kimpton. So those are all coming very soon. Actually, Vignette Collection already here in Alcobar, but it's. Yeah, so along with that, I think there's definitely growth. As I mentioned, these large projects are fueling it. I find that it's not, with these Vision 2030, but also all of the initiatives around tourism in the country are even fueling growth in other areas. So smaller hotels or institutional owners that aren't part of these big groups are also getting into the game, if you will. So there's a big increase in tourism, and I think it's a win-win. It's wins for our hospitality segment. But at the same time, for guests globally, a new generation of guests that can now come to Saudi Arabia and discover some of the these undiscovered treasures and gems and destinations that it offers. So that's all terrific. For us, in that space at the moment, we're happy to have recently announced our partnership with the Red Sea. For creating one of a brand-defining InterContinental resort in that development, along with 6 Senses. First one in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, followed closely by a second one in Diriyah Gate. I mentioned earlier Vignette Collection.
Yes.
Brought to the region in Alcobar. So yeah, a lot of growth, a lot happening there in that respect, definitely.
And you think this growth is been driven by global tourism or local, or a combination of both?
It's a combination. I mean, we talk about Saudi Arabia specifically.
Yes.
It's, as we all know, it has such a diverse population internally, so that's always been the strength of it. But Vision 2030 is, as we know, is trying to bring in it to more of a global stage. So it's a combination of the two. Domestic tourism is being encouraged, and finding even new locations for people to travel to within the country. But at the same time, it's going to be a real growth factor. How it promotes itself. But I just like to say, we mentioned a lot of Saudi Arabia, but this conference is about two countries coming together in the great partnership between the two of them. Yes. The UAE is also not showing any signs of slowing down in all spheres, luxury included. I was just yesterday, I had the pleasure of talking to a gentleman from Dubai Municipality. He heads the unit division over there. and he had some great stories that he shared. Don't think I could do it on stage, but some good stories about what's coming with the potential. And I think here also we talk about the sort of domestic versus global. I think there's a lot bigger influx now of input and development and sort of money coming in from other countries that haven't traditionally been, investing. So it's, sort of the global changes globally are actually having a positive effect also on the UAE.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very interesting times. With that, we'll move to the next theme of the session, which is social and flexible. And I'd like to introduce Darryl. Darryl, you're an architect by training, a project manager as well, and you're working for an integrated international consulting firm. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role and Kio?
Yeah, thanks. Pleasure to be here. So I'm an architect. I manage the design division within KEO. We're a multidisciplinary firm. We offer a variety of services end to end. The team I work with is primarily architecture, structural, and MEP. So design delivery in the commercial space. So we do certainly hospitality, but we also do residential, office buildings, and in a whole variety of, everything in between, frankly. So.
Right. I understand you focus on mixed-use developments, right?
Prior to working in this part of the world, I spent some time in Asia, but most of my career has been focusing on urban mixed use. And so what I'm really interested in is this conversation about how these different types of projects can integrate different uses, and I'm speaking mostly in an urban context, for a sort of a win-win beneficial situation,
And how does that translate into the hospitality typology?
Well, I think and of course there's no one size fits all. Every brand has a different focus and priority, but generally speaking, when we approach it, we try to look at integrating a high-end luxury hospitality environment into a mixed-use environment. We try to integrate it as best we can so that it can leverage other uses. So, in a post-COVID world, with Airbnbs and other different kinds of influencers, what we're seeing is, if you can create an environment where the amenities are more accessible, then it sort of helps take these environments to the next level. So they're more integrated. It can work with the retail environments or work with even, neighboring residential developments. And in some cases, they're environments where, service departments or other residential uses are mixed into the same community. And what that really does is it sort of raises the value across the board, because then you can have complementary uses that help balance out the peaks and the valleys, So, as an example, I live over in the Dubai Marina, and over in JBR, there's residential, there's retail, and there's several high-end hospitality projects. And what you generally find is that most of the footfall used to be around the retail, which you still have that, but it's mostly around the F&B environments and mostly around the podiums of the luxury hospitality environments, because that's where all the signature restaurants are. That's where all the cool hip places are to be. And so if you can create these environments where there's some accessibility, understanding that security and access are issues to be managed and designed around, but if you can create these environments that sort of generate more foot traffic, they become more exciting and more interesting.
Yes, and do you see any changes in design that are probably driven by this social shift?
Yeah, for sure. So to carry on everything I just said, what I would say is, the impact of Instagram, TikTok, and other social media platforms like that on the design process and how we design projects can't be understated. So what I mean by that is, so take the 5 over on the Palm as an example, so in the old days, maybe the lobby was a transitional space or it had a purpose. Now it's an Instagram space where people come in, they recognize the little interior wood structure and the space in and of itself. So people come in, they take Instagram, or carry that on. Even the pool there, the infinity pool in the middle of the building, with the owl, the Ain Dubai behind it. These moments are kind of important because so much online, imagery gets published out there from people. Everybody wants their photograph, and and the other thing I would say is, this sort of idea of signature restaurants and having restaurants with branded chefs. The derivative of that is people taking photographs of their food. So it's kind of funny. 20 years ago, who would have thought, well, part of a hotel brand is going to be the eggs that somebody had for breakfast, but that's the reality of how it is now. And if it's done properly, it can really bring a lot of advantage to the hospitality brand, whoever that is. So, the infinity pools, all the spaces in between. When in the old days, it was like, there were certain moments, the room, certain things that mattered. But now, from a design perspective, and I'm sure you guys would agree, it's like, it's all the spaces in between. It's the corridors. It's anything that may end up becoming iconic or recognizable. And it's really fascinating to me. But, just the idea that people take photographs of everything they're doing and seeing every day has a massive impact on how we design our projects.
Of course. Thank you. That's very useful. We'll now move to the next team, which is Nature and Natural. Pleasure to see you again, Scott. You're an environmental designer in landscape architecture and project manager as well, working for a very big developer. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role within the Red Sea Global?
Yes, and my role is Group Head of Design. I oversee asset design from concept through IFCs and even through construction as technical support. So we're really involved with all of the stakeholders from the outset right up until opening. And we've got two really enormous projects. One that encompasses 28,000 square kilometers, the Red Sea project. The other one about 4,200 square kilometers in Amala. And so right now we've got 27 hotels in some stage of design or construction. And Stephen mentioned two of those. The first one, the Six Senses Southern Dunes, we're planning to open in July, so receive our first visitors. We're about 97% complete on that right now. And then that will be followed in the coming year or two by our hub island of Shura, where we have an InterContinental hotel. So it's exciting working with these enormous greenfield projects that are really the size of national parks. And Darryl's been involved with us on it as well. But I've got a team of architects, interior designers, landscape architects, lighting, signage specialists. And our role is really to collaborate and facilitate the process with the operator, the consultants, and to develop the assets in line with the vision that we have.
Excellent. Yeah, you must be very, very, it's a fantastic position that you have, and you must see some incredible designs. How does sustainability affect your work? Is this something that, how does it drive design?
Well, I think from the very outset, sustainability has been part of our brief from our board, and then following on to our designers. And one of the ways that I think we've been able to innovate and set new standards in sustainable development is through design competition. And I started with the Red Sea project in 2017. We had our first competition going on for the master plan of the Red Sea project. And at that time, the initial brief to the designers was, hey, we're capping the destination at 1 million visitors per year. 1 million per year.
Okay.
Right? And Amala is half of that. They're 500,000 per year. So that's kind of the first benchmark. But we went further and we said that the entire destination would be powered by renewable sources. So 100% off-grid. And between ourselves and Amala, we're the largest off-grid tourism destination globally. And then I think, thirdly, we had this idea of achieving a net positive benefit environmentally. So we said we wanted to increase net environmental benefit by 30% or conservation value by 30% by 2040. And so that changes your thinking. You stop thinking about, we're going to do less harm, to, we've got to do more good. And how does that work? And so, during this competition, originally back in 2017, we had a huge number of people come out to the site, as you can imagine. But we went out, we explored the islands, and you really saw the evidence and why it was important to take this approach. You could see the turtle nesting all over some of the beaches. We saw the migration of birds and other wildlife. And of course, there's a lot of mangrove on our site. We're one of the densest mangrove sites anywhere on the Red Sea. I think maybe the densest. And so when we started evaluating the competition entries, we could see that some of the competition teams were proposing way too much density.
Way too much what?
Density.
Oh, damn.
Right? And you can see it on the plan. Where some of our mono islands that are right out on the reef, when the teams presented the plans, you saw a lot of gray, what looked like concrete, right? You saw the gray on the plan, and you're like, okay, there's no way we're doing this. And our environmental team was saying, hey, the south end of our lagoon, we've got 90 islands. The south end of that is the least sensitive. And so ultimately, the winners of this initial competition were the ones that proposed the majority of the development in that southern part of the lagoon and left most of the remaining 90 islands untouched. So we got that plan approved, and then actually, as we actually got into the master planning process in 2018, we undertook what is maybe one of the largest tourism environmental studies ever done, because it spanned 200 kilometers of coastline. And we were working closely at that time with one of the world-renowned experts in marine biology, Dr. Carlo Duarte from Caus University. And he came up with a way to environmentally model the environment. It's called marine spatial planning. Never been done before. So we're the first ones to do it. And essentially, it was a process of gridding up the environment and assigning conservation values to this grid. So each one of these grid squares had a conservation value. And it was to inform us as to, where the sensitive areas were and where they weren't. And so the benchmark was, what is business as usual? If we do nothing and this area stays as a greenfield site, that's our baseline. So we have to be better than that. So how do we do it? And they ran 5 scenarios. And that's what ultimately informed our master planning and led us to this approach of trying to achieve this 30% net conservation benefit. And so we asked the environmental team, well, how do we do it? And it was a multifaceted action plan, but it started with controlling the fishing on the site, cleaning up all the trash and beach litter, having a longer-term strategy for planting coral and mangrove and seagrass. And so it was a combination of actions that we had to take on, both on the marine side and even on the terrestrial side. We started a 1 square kilometer or 100 hectare nursery, and we knew that was important as well. So this plan really came together towards the latter part of 2018. Before we got into specific asset designs, we knew where we wanted to develop, what islands were too sensitive. There were islands that we selected, that we went out with the master planning team. We said, hey, we want to develop on this island. And then we said, no, too sensitive, can't do it. We set it aside as a conservation area. And then that set the whole framework for us to get into the actual design of the assets.
Fantastic. It's incredible.
Yeah. And so, Alfonso, that's where it all started. And then, of course, then the obvious second question is, okay, if it's so sensitive, then how do you go develop these assets without creating, more environmental damage? And, that took another group of strategies. And I think, Darryl, one of the big ones was off-site manufacturing.
Right.
And it was all about, okay, how do we reduce footfall on these sensitive islands? How do we preserve them? And what do we do with the beaches, with the mangrove? And so that was really a critical part of our strategy. We've got 2 hotels that will be opening later this year, a Rich Reserve and a St. Regis, both on Mono Islands. Both of them utilized off-site manufacturing of timber that came in flat pack form. So between the 2, we received 800 containers of flat pack timber frame and envelope elements. It was all assembled on site. I mentioned this yesterday. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. But, just in terms of controlling logistics, manpower on site, reducing manpower on site, we were able to reduce manpower by about 30%, reduce waste by about 30%, because you're, dealing with precision manufacturing. So millimeter tolerance, able to assemble on site. And then we were able to come in with a lot of native and endemic plant species because we had this nursery. If we didn't have this nursery, there is no way that we would be doing what we're doing. And this nursery's got to supply 25 million plants to our project. Yeah, 25 million. And I can tell you, you don't just order these, 6 months before opening. This takes a lot of forward thinking about how you do it. We've bought nursery stock from all over the world. We've gone out, we've collected seeds, we've taken cuttings from local plants, because these endemic species in KEO, they've got a great landscape team, so they understand this, that they don't exist in a commercial nursery. Yes. So if we're not growing them, there's nobody growing them. Yes. They're not out there. They're not going to exist. And so we've had to take this approach of blending, some of the native and adapted species that are available, such as acacia, with these very specific endemics that are only found maybe on our site or on the Red Sea coast, and figure out how to grow them. We've got a great nursery manager, Grant Shaw, who had to figure out how to grow these plants. It's just unknown. There's no information on it, and so you have to figure out how to do it. But look, ultimately, this led to us only developing on the Red Sea less than 1% of our project area, less than 1% out of 28,000. And so it's all about exploring, discovery. If you're a guest, there's going to be a lot to do, a lot of activities. We have dormant volcanoes. sand dunes, rock formations, islands. So it's a very rich environment. I would only liken it to a national park, a very rich national park. And I think that it's really going to be fantastic for people to come out and see such a small development footprint. And then within our lagoon area, we achieved a 10-to-1 conservation to development ratio, and it's unheard of. 10-to-1 conservation to development, right? So where have you heard of a metric like that, where development's only is the one, the 10%? Yes. It's probably usually the other way around. Yes. 90% development, 10% conservation. Yes. So we flipped it, and we're 10-to-1, and I think it's going to surprise people. It's going to make for a very, very unique destination where, as you said, we've forged this sort of partnership between nature and the built environment in a way that people are going to be able to come out, discover things that they've never seen before, see wildlife they've never seen before. It's going to be really exciting.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's an incredible project, and we'll all look forward to it. We run out of time, but I just want to, 10 seconds, what would be your call for action if we go back to the teams that were our teams, so the local and global, in 10 seconds, what are the key takeaways of your experience there?
Local and global, or what we just discussed here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know, 10 seconds. I mean, I have a lot to say, of course, on the sustainability side, so I'll use my 10 seconds for that. I mean, IHG want to be a partner as well in this. I mean, we don't do it on the scale that Scott's talking about, and yet, we do it, specifically for our hotels in terms of the construction, the operation. We're trying to push that agenda, but we're also cognizant of the fact that we operate globally. So once you do each hotel, it has a big effect. So we've recently initiated what we call the Journey to Tomorrow, where we've looked at the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals that are actually set, and on the back of that we've created our oงagenda to achieve that goal. So by 2030, 10-year plan, because we started it a couple of years ago, we're aiming for all the new build hotels to achieve either low or to net zero carbon emissions. Wow. So it's an ambitious plan. I mean, obviously, projects like Red Sea will help us in some cases, because we can't do it all by ourselves. So the consultants, our owners, and of course suppliers as well are going to be a key factor in that. So it's a big journey that we're on. But we're definitely the guests. There's two things, right? The guests are looking for, and as a hospitality company, the guests are why we're here, and to respond to their needs. Guests have evolved, and they're looking for sustainability as, looking for companies that react to that and look at their footprint that they're creating. But at the same time, it's the right thing to do. So
yes.
we're
Darryl, we talked about social shifts. Is sustainability part of what you see as a social shift, and is it informing or affecting your designs?
Yeah, for sure. I think as human beings, we all want to feel special and unique. And I think the smaller the world gets with social media, the more important it is to provide these sort of unique experiences. So I think that's where, to me, the manifestation of that is these photographs, these images, these things that people identify with. And, whether that's Red Sea, identifying with the sea turtle or some other experience that you have, I think that's where the social shift is going. It's in a way, if the the 70s, 80s, 90s was about standardization, I think now we're in a direct opposite of that, where it's about customization. So, and I think a lot of that's driven by social media, honestly.
Excellent. And yes, Nadine, what are the sustainability features of your designs? I mean, is this something that the sustainability that you have incorporated into your
definitely, as an interior designer or as an interior design point of view, from us, we are as much as possible looking for quality, because again, the quality that's mean long-term, longer life, less disposing materials at the end of the day, because you know the operation of the hotel, it's very heavy duty thing. So anything can be used in term of on a daily or hourly rate, then it gonna be damaged after a short term. So I would say definitely recycled materials on a top item that we are always considered, like on a CL, we are, as we are mentioning CL, we are using wallpaper as a recycled materials. We are using a beautiful rugs made of recycled material that taken from the sea. All the plastic, yeah, it's very interesting. There is some interesting materials, but at the same time, we are in parallel aiming to look for something has a long term, because long term does mean that we are less purchasing materials, we are less in disposing materials, we are avoiding all this, you know, carbon things that it may impact the environment at a soon future.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, thank you all. We ran out of time, just time. Thank you for the organizers again, and thank you for making this possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.